Fool's opening. Start with f4, then play g4, and just like that, it will be the last smile you have in that game. Your king can't move, and that is checkmate. This checkmate is called fool's mate, and it is the fastest possible checkmate in chess, occurring in just 2 moves. It's the worst opening in chess, and in this video, I will show you all chess openings starting from the worst to the best, and at the end, the best of the best. Stay tuned. Fred defense. The Fred defense begins with e4, f5 by black. It's an unsound and risky opening that weakens the king's defense immediately. After pawn captures on f5, white gains a quick lead in development. Moves like queen to h5 or queen to d5 can easily expose black's vulnerable position. Simply, it's one of the poorest openings on today's list. Jerome Gambit. The Jerome Gambit starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, bishop to c4, bishop to c5, and then bishop takes f7 check. After king takes f7, white sacrifices again with knight takes e5 check. If the king goes to e8, then queen to h5 check, aiming for fast, wild attacks. The Jerome Gambit's main drawback is overaggression. White sacrifices too much material early. If black defends accurately, white ends up down several pieces with no lasting compensation or attack. Don't be tempted by its aggressive material sacrifice. Bongcloud. If you have disrespect for your opponent, play this opening. Just push the e-pawn and pretend to play a normal opening. Then move your king to e2. This wastes 2 moves, makes your king vulnerable, and ruins your castling plan. With all of this, if you win the game, it's a big disrespect for your opponent. Sodium attack. The sodium attack opening starts with knight to a3, an unusual move aiming to surprise the opponent and avoid theory. It prepares c4 or b for later, but delays center control. While it creates flexible development options, it weakens white's influence in the center and gives black an easy path to equalize quickly. The Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Gambit. Do you enjoy aggressively sacrificing pieces? The Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Gambit is for you. You sacrifice tons of material in the opening, but if successful, you make your opponent wifeless. You will learn how to sacrifice a pawn, a knight, and a bishop to build up your intercontinental ballistic missile attack that will leave your opponent's position in unorganized chaos and destruction. You start your normal game. If they play pawn to d5, you sacrifice the pawn. They always take this, attacking the knight. Then you play knight to g5, and the most played move is to play knight to f6, for obvious reason to defend the pawn. You will respond by playing d3, sacrificing another pawn. They take it. You bring in the bishop. And if they even accidentally try to kick your knight, game over. Knight to f7, forking the queen and the rook. If the king takes, boom, you launch the missile. If they save their queen instead, you take the rook and you're up a rook. If you save this knight by any chance, you'll have over a 95% winning probability. The drawback of this gambit is that it severely weakens the king's safety and central control, creating huge defensive holes. A well-prepared opponent can easily counterattack and punish white's reckless early pawn pushes. Polish opening. The Polish opening begins with b4, an unusual flank strategy where white immediately grabs queenside space. It aims to control c5 and prepare bishop to b2, fianchettoing the bishop for long-range pressure. However, this early pawn move weakens the center and can be punished by quick responses like e5 or d5, challenging white's risky setup. Hippo. The Hippo opening is a flexible and defensive chess setup where players develop pawns to b6, g6, e6, and d6, fianchetto both bishops, and keep knights on d7 and e7. Shaped like a resting hippopotamus, it waits quietly before striking back. Though passive-looking, it's solid, tricky, and dangerous when handled with patience and timing. I don't recommend this if you are an aggressive player. Making rushed moves may give you a life lesson to never play this opening again. King's Gambit. The King's Gambit starts with e4, e5, f4, where white sacrifices a pawn to open lines and gain rapid development. The idea is to lure black's e-pawn, control the center, and attack the king quickly. If black accepts, white aims for bishop to c4 and queen to f3, creating strong attacking chances. Danish Gambit. The Danish Gambit begins with e4, e5, d4, e takes d4, c3, where white sacrifices 1 or 2 pawns for fast development. Bishops rush to c4 and b2, targeting the f7 square. The idea is pure aggression. White trades material for quick activity, open lines, and early pressure against the black king. Smith-Morra Gambit. The Smith-Morra Gambit arises after e4 c5 d4 c takes d4 c3, offering a pawn to accelerate development. White's goal is to control the center and activate knights and bishops rapidly. With pieces flying out to c3, f3, and c4, White builds strong attacking chances against unprepared Sicilian defense players. I love watching Sicilian players panic as their position catches fire. You feel me? Then I recommend this opening to you. Philidor defense. The Philidor defense starts with e4, e5 knight to f3, d6, creating a solid yet cramped setup for black. It aims to protect the e5 pawn and prepare for knight to f6 and b7. While positionally sound, it can lead to passive play if black doesn't counter in the center quickly. Dutch defense. The Dutch defense begins with d4, f5, where black immediately fights for control of the e4 square. The idea is to create dynamic attacking chances on the king side. Typical plans include g6, bg7, and pushing e6. Though aggressive, it weakens the king's safety and the dark squares around e6 and g7. Perk opening. The perk opening is a flexible defense where black allows white to build a strong center, then strikes back later. It begins with e4, d6, followed by d4, knight to f6, and nc3, g6. Black aims for counterplay using pawn breaks like e5 or c5, creating a dynamic and strategic battle. King's Indian attack. The King's Indian attack is a flexible and strategic opening for white, designed for a strong kingside attack and solid defense. It usually starts with e4, knight to f3, g3, bg2, d3, and short castle. White keeps the structure compact, preparing e5 to gain space and open lines. The setup is not about memorizing moves, but understanding plans, pushing e5 and attacking the enemy king. It's a favorite for players who prefer slow, positional play that can quickly turn aggressive, often catching opponents unprepared for the sudden kingside storm. Nimzo-Larsen attack. The Nimzo-Larsen attack starts with b3, preparing to fianchetto the bishop to b2. White controls the center from a distance and stays flexible. It's a creative system allowing quick development and unexpected attacks. Moves often follow b3, bishop to b2, e3, and knight to f3, aiming for smooth control and tactical chances. Benoni. The Benoni defense arises after d4, c5, then d5. Black willingly gives space to attack later with moves like e6, d6, and g6. The result is a sharp, fighting position where white pushes in the center while black counterattacks on the queen side. It's dynamic, risky, and perfect for players who love complications. Perfect for players who enjoy living dangerously and occasionally losing spectacularly. French defense. The French defense begins with e4, e6, preparing d5 to challenge white's center. Black builds a solid pawn structure, often leading to a closed position. Common plans include knight to f6, c5, and queen to b6. It's a reliable defense that focuses on counterattacking rather than immediate confrontation. Terrace French. The Terrace French variation comes after e4, e6, d4, d5 knight to d2. White avoids pinning ideas and keeps the center strong. The play is open and active compared to other French lines. White usually aims for c3, knight to f3, and e5, building steady pressure while maintaining a flexible pawn structure. Scandinavian defense. The Scandinavian defense begins with e4, d5. Black immediately strikes at the center, forcing early exchanges. After e takes d5, queen takes d5, white develops with knight to c3, attacking the queen. Black often retreats with queen to a5 or queen to d6. It's a simple, direct defense with quick piece activity. Fried liver. The fried liver attack is an aggressive line in the Italian game starting with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, knight to f6, and knight to g5. White threatens a quick attack on f7. If black plays incorrectly, the attack can explode with tactical fireworks. Ready opening. The ready opening begins with knight to f3 followed by c4. White avoids immediate center control with pawns and instead pressures from the sides. The idea is flexibility, sometimes transforming into English or Queen's Gambit setups. It's ideal for strategic players who prefer slow development and positional maneuvering over direct confrontation. London system. The London system is a solid and easy-to-learn setup for white. It starts with d4, knight to f3, and bishop to f4, basically white saying, "I'm comfy, I'm cozy, and I will slowly take over your soul. I mean bored." White builds a strong pawn structure with e3 and c3, later castling short. The system is safe yet dangerous, offering slow build-up before launching attacks on the king side or center. Scotch. The Scotch opening begins with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and d4. White immediately challenges the center and opens lines for development. After e takes d4, knight takes d4, both sides get open positions and fast development. It's a straightforward, tactical opening perfect for players who enjoy active, open battles. Sicilian Dragon. The Sicilian Dragon is one of the sharpest defenses for black, starting with e4, c5, knight to f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and g6. Black fianchettos the bishop to g7, creating powerful pressure on the center. White often castles long and pushes h4 and h5, leading to fiery attacks on both wings. Caro-Kann. The Caro-Kann defense begins with e4, c6, followed by d5. Black challenges the center in a solid and safe way, avoiding early weaknesses. After e takes d5, c takes d5, the position becomes stable. It's a favorite for players who like strong defense, flexible development, and long strategic battles rather than early fireworks. Alekhine defense. The Alekhine defense starts with e4 knight to f6, immediately attacking the e4 pawn. White often advances with e5, chasing the knight to d5. Black provokes an overextended pawn center, later striking back with d6 and c5. It's an unorthodox, counterattacking defense that invites early tension and deep strategy. It's like letting someone build a sandcastle, only to bulldoze it spectacularly, and somehow still look calm doing it. Slav. The Slav defense arises after d4, d5, c4, c6. Black supports the center with a solid pawn chain, aiming for easy development and no weaknesses. Moves like knight to f6, knight to d7, and bishop to f5 are common. It's a dependable, positional defense that allows counterplay without much risk. English. The English opening starts with c4, controlling the center from the flank. It's flexible and can transpose into many systems like the Ready or Catalan. White often follows with knight to f3, g3, and bishop to g2, focusing on long-term pressure and smooth development. It's strategic, calm, and perfect for players who like slow control. Catalan. The Catalan opening blends the ideas of the Queen's Gambit and Ready, starting with d4, e4, knight to f3, g3, and bishop to g2. White fianchettos the bishop for strong control over the center. It's a positional opening favoring patient, strategic players. Italian. The Italian game begins with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. White develops quickly and targets the weak f7 square. The game can lead to quiet positional play or wild tactics, depending on how both sides continue. It's classical, elegant, and ideal for learning open play. Martial attack. The martial attack arises from the Ruy Lopez after e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, a6, bishop to a4, knight to f6, castles, and b5, bishop to b3, d5. Black sacrifices a pawn for massive activity and attacking chances on the king side. It's bold, tactical, and dangerous for unprepared opponents. Berlin defense. The Berlin defense comes from the Ruy Lopez with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, and knight to f6. Black aims for early piece exchanges and a solid structure. Though the queens often leave the board early, the endgames are rich with subtle play. It's famously solid and difficult to crack. King's Indian defense. The King's Indian defense starts with d4 knight to f6, c4 g6, and knight to f3 bishop to g7. Black allows white to build a strong center, then strikes back with e5 or c5. It's a sharp, fighting defense where black aims for counterplay on the king side, while white pushes on the queen side. Grunfeld. The Grunfeld defense begins with d4 knight to f6, c4 g6, knight to c3 d5. Black challenges the center immediately, allowing white to build it up with c takes d5, knight takes d5, and e4. Black then uses piece activity to counterattack. It's a dynamic defense based on speed and tactical pressure rather than structure. Nimzo-Indian defense. The Nimzo-Indian defense arises after d4 knight to f6, c4 e6, knight to c3 bishop to b4. Black pins the knight to create pressure on the center and sometimes doubles white's pawns. It's a flexible and strategic opening that mixes positional control with tactical ideas, used by many world champions for its balance. Petrov. The Petrov defense, or Russian defense, begins with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to f6. Instead of defending the pawn, black mirrors white's attack. It often leads to symmetrical positions, emphasizing precision and technique. Though calm in appearance, one wrong move can break the balance. It's a reliable, classical defense against e4. Queen's Gambit. The Queen's Gambit starts with d4, d5, and c4. White offers a pawn to gain control of the center. If black accepts, white gains active play. If declined, it leads to solid positional battles. This opening teaches core chess principles, space, development, and balance, and remains one of the oldest and most respected systems. Play this opening. Sicilian defense. The Sicilian defense begins with e4, c5, instantly creating an unbalanced position. Black fights for the center from the flank, aiming for counterplay rather than symmetry. Common setups include d6, knight to f6, and e6. It leads to sharp, tactical battles where both sides attack on opposite wings. It's bold, dynamic, and extremely popular. Najdorf. The Najdorf variation of the Sicilian defense appears after e4, c5, knight to f3, d6, d4c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight to f6, and knight to c3, a6. The move a6 prevents white's pieces from jumping to b5 and prepares b5 for counterplay. It's one of the most aggressive, complex, and respected openings in chess. Ruy Lopez. The Ruy Lopez, also known as the Spanish opening, begins with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. White immediately targets the knight defending the e5 pawn, aiming for long-term pressure and control. It's ranked number 1 because it perfectly combines strategy, development, and attack potential. The Ruy Lopez teaches key chess principles, center control, piece coordination, and timing, making it both elegant and deadly. Its deep theory allows endless possibilities, from quiet positional battles to explosive tactics. It remains the favorite of world champions and top players seeking classical balance with modern attacking power.